Hello McDaniel Army and welcome back to my channel. So, do you know what fascinates me the most? So, do you know what fascinates me the most? Well, I'm here to tell you. I'm going to look up a little bit more information, but you can't always believe what you look up on the internet. But right now I am exporting the video I just recorded to my camera roll, so I can't really look up information. But I was just talking to my fiance about this like earlier this morning, last night or whatever. But you know those really old oak trees, and then when you cut them down they have the rings on the like stump? Well, here's one thing I know about those rings on the stump. They are to let you know how old that tree really is. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Roll into a time lapse. Okay guys, so as you can see in the previous clip, I did a quick little time lapse of me looking up information that something, well, it fascinates me. So anyways, I didn't know how to word that. I'm sorry. So I told you that it represents like how old a tree is, which is true, but it also represents like new growth. Growth rate changes throughout the year due to seasonal climate changes, and then each ring marks a complete cycle of seasons or a year in the tree's life. So basically, like if you cut down a tree and there's one specific tree that doesn't have it, like doesn't get the rings, and I'll get into that further. But if you cut down the tree and you look at the stump, it most of the time should have rings on it, which is basically, it tells you like each complete cycle of season, or like basically a year in tree life. So how to read a tree ring for age, like when you cut it, you'll see light and dark wood, so they appear in like alternating rings. So if you cut down a tree, you'll probably see like a light ring, dark ring, light ring, dark ring, and so on and so forth, because it'll just like, or I don't know how you read them, but like if you might go from like the middle out, or you might go from out to in. So every time you go either whatever way you read it, the rings will either get from smaller to bigger or bigger to smaller. I don't know how you read them. So basically, the dark ring represents the tree's age and not the light rings. The light colored rings represent wood that grew in the spring and early summer, and the dark rings represent wood that grew in the late summer and fall. So when you read a tree, you basically don't even read the light rings, you read the dark ones. And then that tells you like the age of the tree, if that makes sense. So there is, I guess, wider rings in the trees when you cut them down, and I would love to like go somewhere and see like a tree being cut down or something, which we just had. I don't know, maybe they removed the stump or whatever, which kind of sucks because I would have loved to go and like actually seen that. So there's wider rings and narrower rings. The wider rings represents better growing conditions where it's warmer and wetter, and the narrower rings, that's a tongue twister, represent worse growing conditions where it's like more cool and dry. So there is a thing called a false ring on here, and a false ring can result from a drought, which is basically like, you know how humans get stressed out because they overload themselves. So drought is basically like stress for the tree. Obviously a tree has to have, you know, different climate changes and, you know, rain and stuff to be able to grow. So what a false ring is, it's a layer of wood less than a full season's growth. So like I said, you obviously have to have like different climate changes. You know, it can't just be like dry all year, otherwise that tree is just dead, stressed out, and it stresses itself out and pretty much dies. So also, a tree, I didn't know this, which is really interesting. A tree can sometimes go a year without producing a ring. That's really interesting because literally that's how you tell a tree's lifespan is with the rings. So it might go a whole year without creating a ring because they probably like just planted it, or it just, you know, started growing, which is really interesting. So this is cool. So if you live in like Florida or California or whatever, you know, they have beautiful palm trees. I love palm trees. I don't know what it is, but they are just beautiful. So a palm tree is basically the only tree that does not form rings. So palm trees, I guess, don't really have a lifespan. They just live forever, I guess, until, you know, you get a bad storm or something and it knocks it over, and then it's done with. A palm tree is basically just woody tissue. It doesn't have like anything solid like regular trees do. I basically said in the beginning of this that it's just oak trees. That's because that's the only tree that I've really seen like on a TV show or on the internet that has pictures of the rings, but I guess it's pretty much all trees except for palm trees, which is really fascinating. And then tree rings are more visible in trees that have places where seasons change between hot and cold. So say like we live here, you know, it snows 6 months out of the year, which is good for a tree, which creates tree rings or whatever, because pretty much, you know, when the snow melts, it turns into this like water and stuff, which is good for like the earth. And then we have a thing out here called Indian summer, where it's like the hottest days of summer. We do have a summer, it's just not as long as other places, like, you know, Florida pretty much, you know, they have hurricane season and then it's just hot like all year round. I believe same with California. Back where we're from, we don't get much snow, but we get like tropical storms. You know, we don't really get like tornadoes or hurricanes like Florida does, but we do get like really bad storms or whatever. So I don't know, I guess places like maybe like Alaska, you know, there's places in Alaska that snow all year round, and that's not good for a tree. You know, just like every other plant, a tree has to have rain, sun, you know, rain for like water, you know, because trees like soak up that water from the ground and it goes up the tree trunk and so on and so forth, which is really fascinating. So yeah, I bet that's something that you guys didn't know about me. So there you go. I don't know what it is, but lately, like as I've just been getting older, nature has kind of been like fascinating to me, especially sorry, especially like tree rings. It's just interesting. So if there's anybody out there that are tree experts or whatever and cut down trees for a living and see this video, I would love to come make a YouTube video, and you guys can like educate me more on the lifespan or tree rings. That would be really fun. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna go, but before I go, make sure you like that video, like this video, subscribe, share, comment, and that little bell next to the subscribe button, turn it on to all so you can be notified every single time I post a brand new video, and I will see you all in the next one. I love you guys, and peace out.